Hello everyone. Today we are all here from Ask the Students Week. My name is Molly and I work in student recruitment at the RNCM, and I'm here with a group of our student ambassadors who have been working on our online support week this week, answering all your questions about recorded auditions and general life at the RNCM. So we've gathered up a few of the questions from the week and we thought we'd discuss them together to give a bit of an overview on what's been covered across schools. So the first question is about recording environment. So kind of what's the ideal recording environment? What should it look like? How should it be spaced? All that kind of thing. So yeah, that is the first question, guys.
Well, I know from a singer's point of view, where we have to remain social distance from any pianists we're with, unless in your country it's fine. But otherwise, just make sure it's as bare and as neat and clean as possible around you. You know, many people are recording at home, so you don't want to have piles of your sheet music anywhere, just in case they fall, number one. But, you know, just as bare and as neat and tidy as possible, I think, and then as good a quality as you can muster. But if that's just your iPad, also fine.
And also it would be good if there were no distractions, like no dog coming through, things like that.
And for singers, I think it's best to make sure the camera can see your facial expressions clear enough. I don't know about instrumentalists, obviously your fingers.
Cool. Do any instrumentalists want to give a bit of a differing opinion? Because obviously it is different for vocals because you don't need to quite show what your hands are doing all the time as well.
I think for violins or violas, anything like that, you need to make sure you've obviously got enough space to be bowing and things like that, which sounds really stupid, but you absolutely need that space and take that space. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the second question is about recording. Can each piece be recorded separately and edited together, or would it be best to do all the performance elements in one take?
I think we had quite a few of these questions on SWBP Day, and we spoke with Molly about it, and she said that everything should kind of be in one like long recording if it's possible. So just try and make sure that and I think that's included scales as well. I think, was that what you were saying, Molly?
Yeah, so kind of what Jess has said. So ideally, if all performance elements could be within one recording, just so we've kind of got all the performance together and then the spoken bit together. But obviously, if technology prevails that from happening and the video is too long, that's not a problem at all. We're not going to penalise you for it being in more than one, just ideally all performance elements in one video. Question specific for pop. What are your thoughts on auditioning with your own compositions?
Yeah, there's a mix of opinions on it. If you've clearly got like very clear influences and they come across in your original, then that's totally fine. But we'd advise sticking to singing a cover, just because the panel want to compare your rendition of whatever song you've chosen to the original song. You know, just like compare your technique with like what was used like in the original. Yeah, so maybe I'd just say steer away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're on pop as well, another one for you guys. Can sheet music be used, or would it be ideal to perform from memory?
I think sheet music is not a good idea, just because I think it is a distraction, and I think it takes your attention away from the performance, and also I think it's much more impressive if you have like learned the songs and that you don't look at like lyrics or something like that. So I wouldn't recommend to use sheet music.
Great. Now, one for everyone, and I think it's a really good question to discuss, and I think it's something that you would have all found challenging, I guess, with doing online lessons and things, but something you've all got used to. How can you get in the performance zone in your own home? Who wants to start? Should we start with James? You go.
Yeah, I think it's a really tricky one because obviously you're not in front of an audience, and especially when it's been that long since you've probably played to an audience anyway, it is quite difficult to get in the zone. But I guess you could practice beforehand, maybe playing to your parents or people in your household, depends on the restrictions where you are, just to kind of get you performing to people again and getting back in that mindset of actually having people watching.
Yeah, definitely. Harriet, what do you think?
People may not get used to playing in front of the camera. And what I suggest to do is you practice with your camera all the time. For me, after my practice, I will put the camera in front of me and I will do a self-recording of the whole process. And after several times, you will find you will get used to it and you will be not as nervous as before.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, what do you think on that topic?
I would really recommend like FaceTiming or Zoom calling like a friend and playing to them so that you get used to playing to the camera and it's still then a performance environment because you've got someone like there at the end to give you feedback. Even if they're not a musician, like they could just be your friend. They might know nothing about music. It's just about getting into that and being used to having the camera there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about kind of trying to not pretend it's a live performance because you don't have an audience of hundreds of people in your living room, but to get used to that process as well. Another one for all of you is dress code. We've discussed this a lot over the week, and the variety of opinions on dress code from school to school. So yeah, it would be really good to discuss the different ideas on dress code and what you guys wore for your auditions. I know they were live for most of you, but yeah, let's discuss that one.
I think it's quite tempting to think that maybe wearing a suit or something very, very, very fancy, maybe all black, is a good idea. But I think what came up in our one in the school of it was the keyboard studies yesterday, was that not wearing sort of all black and actually wearing a bit of colour, something that shows your individuality, your personality is a much better option. And I don't think you have to be too formal, so don't worry about not wearing a suit. I know I definitely did it in my audition. I think it was probably more down the smart casual route. But yeah.
I'd say for pop, it's definitely smart casual. I know for my audition, I wore a denim skirt and a nice top. Obviously, like the pop course, when we perform, we sort of present ourselves a bit differently to maybe a classical musician does. So you sort of want to reflect that in your clothing choices, I think. So definitely smart casual, not as casual as like jeans and a t-shirt, but definitely not like a ball gown or a suit.
Definitely. Fraz and Eden, obviously there are, although you don't do an audition as such, how about for the interview? What do you think?
Yeah, we spoke about this in our Ask the Students, and yeah, it's interesting because like you say, we're not being auditioned, so we're not in any way performing, but at the same time you have to present yourself as someone who is to be taken seriously, but then also someone who is confident. So if you can wear clothes that make you feel confident, and if that happens to be a three-piece, like, I don't know, Jacobean kind of rough suit, then fine, wear it. But I think I went smart casual. I think I had like a blazer, but then a t-shirt and jeans. You know, it's just kind of just general sort of like looking like a lecturer from a uni kind of vibe. And I think actually, it, like we said, it's very much whatever you feel comfortable and confident in. You're not trying to wow them with your fashion sense. You're trying to present yourself as someone who is fine to come and study composition at the RCM. You know, big difference.
Yeah.
I don't know if Raz has anything to add to that.
No, I think I'd just say the same, like something that you're comfortable in, something that you're confident in, really. I mean, one thing that is potentially worth thinking about, because you're obviously going to be sitting in front of a Zoom like this, is do you want to like, you know, make it an occasion by putting on like a different shirt than what you'd normally wear to kind of take you into a different zone? So maybe you'll talk about stuff differently. That's probably what I would do, but it might not work for everyone.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so the next one is about accepted. So accepted is the way all recorded auditions are being submitted via an online portal. Any notes on when would be good to upload to accepted? Can it be left really late to the 15th, which is the deadline, or would it be better to kind of submit it earlier whenever the recording's ready?
I definitely think if the recording's ready to go and all done, just submit it as soon as you can, because there's going to be a mad rush at the end, whether people plan for it or not. And that will be when it crashes. Fingers crossed. No, but if it, you know, it's going to be slower, and if you've left it right till the knocker, and you know you've got an hour to upload, and you don't have the best internet connection, you're just going to be stressing unnecessarily. So if you can get them all kind of done at least a week, if not a couple of days in advance, then you'll just be calmer in general. So I think go that one.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Accepted does get very busy towards the deadline. So yeah, the earlier you can record, the earlier you can submit, ultimately. So yeah, try and get it in as soon as possible. Next one, equipment for recorded auditions. Should anyone be looking at buying anything, or will a phone do? What equipment is suggested?
I mean, it'd be weird if you went out and bought like an 8-track mixer for the composition interview, and had like a really fancy condenser microphone. I think, yeah, for the composition, your phone is fine, or your laptop or whatever, or just a webcam on a desktop. I don't think that anything fancy needs to be done, because we're just using our words. But then again, I guess if you're a vocalist, it'll be very different. I know different vocalists react to different mics and things. I don't know if any of them would like to speak to that, but for composition, don't worry about it.
With composition, I would also say, because you're going to be relying a little bit on internet connection, so just make sure you've like thought about that a little bit in advance. Like if you've got one room that's got a dodgy connection, don't be in there, and like close down other tabs on your laptop so you're not distracted and all of that kind of thing.
I think for pop, microphone would be a good idea, but make sure not to edit it. Or you can use like a little bit of reverb, but like that's it, because it should show your if you're a vocalist, then it should show your vocals as it is, like as your sound. So that's why it's important not to edit it.
If a percussionist, and you may need to record in studio because you got a lot of instruments to record on, and make sure your phone or laptop, or even you're using a microphone, it will be fine, but make sure the distance between your microphone and your instrument has a certain distance, because it will be easily distort. And if you are using a microphone, or you're using a inbuilt microphone in the laptop or iPhone or iPad, and you need to make the dynamic contrast more obvious than what you usually do, and that would give a better performance on the video.
I just want to say it's the same for double bass, because obviously it's such a low pitch. Make sure that you're, like, if you are using a phone, make sure it is quite far away from you, just so you don't get too much distortion.
I think as well, obviously the panel aren't expecting them to be like amazing recordings. You know, they do appreciate that we don't all have the best microphones out there. People are doing it on phones or laptops. I don't think it matters as much as you probably think it does.
I know for classical voice, many of the people have just been, and probably the same for pop vocals as well, if you can do a tester just with the microphones you do have, especially just depending on what program you might be using, if it's not just your phone or just your laptop. Yeah, just making sure you've got the right settings so it doesn't cut out at any point or, you know, have any distortion. Distance can be a bit more difficult for vocals because you do have kind of the range that you cover. But yeah, if you could do a test drive and at least try and get a good balance, especially if you've got a backing track that you're playing with yourself and you're not adding it later, you want to make sure that balance is good as well.
Yeah, I think what's important to note from what everyone said really is that, to be honest, you can use whatever equipment you've got. You don't need to go out. If you don't have a microphone, don't go out and buy one. Your phone is absolutely fine. But yeah, as Emma said, just do a test first. Test those really high notes you're singing or playing. Test that really low section with all those staccato notes as well. Just kind of test it across the board so you feel comfortable, so you don't record your whole audition, listen to it back, and then realise that you should have put your phone in a different place or something like that. Cool. Composition. What should applicants expect from their interview?
I think the main thing is you'll be asked to talk a bit about your portfolio, and you'll also be asked to sort of analyze some of a piece. The key thing really here, I would say, is not trying to do everything. Like, in however long it is, you're never gonna fit in all of the information you could possibly get out of either your pieces or the analysis. So just try and like focus on certain things that most interest you, because you're really just trying to convey your character and your interests. So whether that's just talking in the analysis about just the rhythm or something, I think that's what I did. Like, that's totally fine. Don't worry about trying to cover everything. And yeah, same with the portfolio, obviously you know your pieces very well, but just try and talk about something interesting, and maybe practice talking about your work to other people before, like friends or whatever, just so that you can think about what you most enjoy talking about.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. That's very true. And I think you will get asked about your portfolio as well. So it's not a case of necessarily like think about one specific thing about your portfolio, but like be ready, because they will ask you something, and you should just get to know your pieces again. You know, I mean, you submitted them in October or whatever, and so you might not have looked at them, but it still is October. You may have submitted them at the start of October. You may not have looked at them for a month. It'd be good to go back over them and just, you know, get to know them. And yeah, exactly as Fraz says, they're looking at you really. The pieces and the analysis, that's just subterfuge. They're really just looking at, you know, who are you? Would you fit into the RNCM? As it, you know, what can we get from you? What can we offer to you? So yeah, just be yourself. You know, it's an interview, not an audition, which is just it's a weirdly different mindset, which is why I think it's kind of putting a divide here, I think, a little bit, because for us it's not a performative aspect. It's very different. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm talking nonsense, but that's all I've got to say. That's what you can expect.
Just make sure you've got a copy of the music that you submitted, either open on your computer or just like to hand, because they might ask you about a certain bar or a certain section, and it's just useful to be able to jog your memory.
Yeah, without having to like open Sibelius, be like, you know, just have it ready.
Brilliant. So the final question on recorded auditions is about accompanists. So obviously it's a very difficult time right now to source an accompanist. Obviously all entrance requirements are on the website, and all accompanied pieces can be played unaccompanied. But if you want to use one, what would you suggest? Or if you don't want to use one, what would you suggest? Kind of, what would you guys do in this situation if you guys were submitting a recorded audition?
I think if you're really set on using an accompanist, obviously there's ones on YouTube and stuff that you can get, but I would say make sure you get used to the recording of it, because it might be slightly different to how you would usually do it. And obviously you don't have the interaction with the accompanist that you usually would. So I think it's really important to make sure that you do know what's happening when, especially if there's any pauses or anything, you kind of know how long they are, and spend a lot of time getting used to that before jumping in and then it going a bit wrong.
I think as well, if you are using pre-recorded, don't worry, because the panel will know that that's not particularly maybe your personal interpretation of the piece, because you're kind of having to go via someone else. So yeah, just make the best of what you've got, I guess, if you're doing that.
And I'd say for pop, we sort of use backing tracks for auditions anyway, but if you are comfortable and confident enough, you can self-accompany. Just make sure it doesn't like take away from your performance.
And make sure it's a good quality backing track as well.
For classical voice, I know that we've been told that if you decide to go a cappella as well, you're welcome to give yourself just a little start note at the piano and go from there. Most of the time, you know, that's really daunting, but if that allows you to be a little more expressive than with a pre-recorded backing track, then go for it. You know, whatever is going to make you feel most confident in your final product when you submit it, I reckon.
Brilliant. And there is just one more question, and I just thought it'd be really good to get everyone to answer this one. So we'll go round and I will let you know when it's your time. So I just wanted to ask everyone, why did you choose to study at the RNCM? It is quite a big question. So let's start with Harriet.
My reason for studying RNCM is about the location, because I know a church in Manchester, and that's why I come to Manchester and study. Obviously, I want to study in a music college, and that's why I chose RNCM. It is not a usual reason for people to come in here. And yeah, besides, I think RNCM is a international school, so there I can meet a lot of people from different countries, and this really broadened my horizon.
Brilliant. Tessa.
I chose the RNCM mainly because of my tutor. I managed to get like a consultation and I really enjoyed it. And she's one of the biggest reasons why I chose here. And I feel like the student life here, when I came for the offer holders day, I felt like the RNCM has got such a supportive environment. It was so bustling. It was just all good vibes around. So that's kind of why I chose it as well.
Great. Ellis.
I chose RNCM because I was very passionate about pop singing and performing, and I wanted to continue studying it. But unfortunately, in Estonia, we don't have like a pop degree, so that's why I decided to go to study in a foreign country, and I wanted to. I wanted to move into a foreign country because it really gets you out of your comfort zone and you really grow as a person. And I didn't have to regret my decision at all. It's been really, really amazing time at RNCM.
Emma.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I largely picked the RNCM, or my top pick that worked out really well, because I'm studying the masters, and I found that there was just so much opportunity available with tailoring your study in those 2 years and moving on to the next step, ideally being professional world. It's really nice to be able to do that and kind of set that up the way you'd like it. And I also really enjoyed just the general atmosphere, collaborative atmosphere of the RNCM, and the fact that we have such world-class venues that we can work with, and yeah, it's just so many boxes that are great, and it's been wonderful. So yeah, all those things.
Beth next.
RNCM was really it was the only place I applied to. I knew if I didn't get into the RNCM, I didn't want to go anywhere else. A big thing was I went to a secondary school that a lot of the musicians at that secondary school in sixth form came to the RNCM. And so I sort of just aspired to follow in their footsteps. And the session orchestra was also a big thing, seeing people I knew performing that. I think it's one of a kind, and nowhere else offered something like that. So that was a big factor for me.
James.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to Tessa, really. the person I wanted to study with taught here, so that was a big influence. And I know when I was going to like other open days and Offerholds events to like other conservatoires, this one felt the most friendly and everyone seemed so easy to get on with, and even just kind of the layout of the college and everything seemed a lot easier to many other places, which I quite liked. I still get lost though, so but yeah.
Pia.
Similarly to James, I've always really wanted to come here because I had teachers that taught here and that studied here, and then friends that have gone on to study here. So I almost felt like I was part of the family, I guess, before I got here. And I also like the fact that the RNCM is very built in with the city, as opposed to a campus or something like other conservatoires are. So yeah, I really like that because I like to be quite independent, so I feel I can get that a lot here. So.
Jess.
I think there are a few things for me, quite a lot of factors. I think one of them is definitely teacher, because my teacher's amazing, and I think another thing is definitely like the amount of orchestral like amazing orchestras around like the location of Manchester, like the Halle, BBC Phil, like Manchester Camerata. Like RNCM really gives you like the opportunity to create a lot of contacts, and yeah, so, and then the other thing was location. Like I was definitely like wanting to get away from home a bit and kind of like fly the nest, and I'm originally from London, so that kind of ruled out quite a lot of the London conservatoires for me. So I think RNCM definitely like the atmosphere of it, and everyone's so welcoming and like so lovely, so it's a really supportive community.
Fraz.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of similar reasons to other people, but one of the things that I found is that the composition department at RNCM is so sort of varied. Like there's people doing like completely different things, and they're all exciting in different ways, and they're all encouraged as well. So I felt like RNCM was a really good place to come to just experiment a bit and be kind of just, yeah, free to try out different things. And there's obviously so many opportunities that you can get involved in composing in different ways that it just felt like a really exciting place to be.
Yeah, Sam.
I think leading on from what Fraz just said, that exploration point was definitely a big thing for me. I didn't know whether I wanted to do sort of classical or jazz at first, and obviously it's a classical sax course here, but I've sort of molded my way to do a bit of jazz as well, and RNCM offers you that freedom. And then also, like James said and Tessa, I think it's a weird one, but the atmosphere of the whole of the RNCM, how like you have to walk through the cafe to get through to the practice rooms, that kind of thing. It kind of makes you interact with people a lot more, and that's one of the best things about the way college is made, I think. Yeah.
Eden.
Yeah, I mean, I want to echo literally everyone's sentiments. Everyone has said something similar to my experience. I'm on the postgrad, just like Emma, and so for me, it was much more like I wasn't looking necessarily for the university experience or anything. I was looking literally, where's the place that's next gonna, what's the next stage of my career, my educational career. And I'm actually from the same secondary school that Beth's from, funnily enough. I think we're probably second to Chet's for the amount of graduates from our secondary school that come to the RNCM. There's quite a lot of us, and it's always been inspiring. And we're, I'm from nearby as well, from Stoke-on-Trent, so it's kind of like, the RNCM's just up the road, and it's this amazing place that everyone who is talented enough from our area or from other areas goes and collaborates, and that just always inspired me. Like for me, that was it. The RNCM was the gold standard of what being a good musician like in the north is, and I genuinely really liked that, and I really always wanted to go. I remember going to I didn't go to the junior RNCM, but I went for an open day and thought, oh, I'm not good enough yet, that kind of thing. So auditioning now, or when I did, it was like one of those milestones for me of like, finally I'm good enough to get into the RNCM. This is the place to go. It was really one of those things of like complete something I've always wanted to do and always aspired to do. It's been very aspirational for me. That's why.
And Sarah.
I would say it's definitely the people and the atmosphere. Like, it's such a community and everyone is so friendly and supportive. As a bass player, we have a couple of rooms that we always practice in and where we keep our instruments. And like last year and like even this year, I'm always knocking on the person like who's practicing next door, like, can you help me with this? Like, I'm struggling with that. And everyone's just so helpful and always wants you like to be the best performer that you can be, which is really nice. And like, yeah, definitely as the bass department, like, it's a really tight knit community of really good friends. Because there's only actually like 11 of us in the whole college, which means that we get so many opportunities. So like the rest of the string department is quite big. There's 11 cellos in my year alone, so it means we're always getting to play an orchestra together. And because we spend so much time together, I think that also improves how we play together as a section, which is really cool.
Brilliant. That rounds up everything from us. So I just want to kind of end this Zoom call by saying thank you to all of our student ambassadors working on this week. And also thank you very much to everyone for getting involved with our Ask the Students Week. We are all available to talk to via the Unibuddy platform if you've got any other questions. Or also please don't hesitate to contact our admissions team who are contactable on admissions@rncm.ac.uk. So yeah, just please don't hesitate to get in touch. Any questions, we are more than happy to help you out.